I rewatched every forgotten sci-fi movie from the 1980s, just to find the most underrated, most entertaining, and flat-out strangest gems you missed. I've got giant robots punching each other, a Mad Max-style desert chase, and one movie where teenagers fight evil with roller skates. Here are awesome 80s sci-fi movies you probably forgot about. Before Pacific Rim was even an idea, you had Robot Jox, a movie that basically smashes together Rocky IV, Top Gun, and Transformers and just runs wild with it. Stuart Gordon directs this post-apocalyptic action flick, set after a nuclear war. By now, full-scale wars are over. Instead, you've got nations settling their disputes with one-on-one giant robot fights. The main guy, Achilles, Gary Graham, fights for the West against Alexander, who's the Eastern Bloc's champion. The story is as simple as it gets. These two are set up for a showdown that decides everything. What stands out here are those robot fights. The effects team, including Paul Gentry, actually built 40-foot practical robot suits. The stop motion and model work put all the energy on screen. You see how much thought went into the robot designs and the way they move, even including transforming arms in space battles. There's a surprising attention to real science too, like no sound in space during the fight scenes. For its time, these were jaw-dropping effects. Even Edgar Wright said he was blown away as a kid. Nobody watches for the script, you watch for the robots, period. Cherry 2000 is a post-apocalyptic oddity that's so packed with cliches you think it'll be a generic Mad Max knockoff. But stick with it, and it gets much weirder. You've got the Wild West, robots, desert chases, and it all filmed in this half-1950s, half-2080s mashup style. The setup is 2017 Nevada. Society's collapsed, people have robot wives, and Sam, a businessman, just wants to get his Cherry 2000 android working again after she breaks down for good. He hires Melanie Griffith's character to track down a replacement in the Forbidden Zone. The movie flopped hard, $14,000 at the box office, and got labeled as too silly, only for hardcore fans. Over time, though, it picked up a following for being so offbeat and unclassifiable. You've got to give it credit for being way ahead of the curve with the whole companion robot idea. The movie's vision of 2017, with sex robots, social contracts, and actual paperwork to get a date, was uncannily prescient. And even if we didn't get Cherry 2000 units here in 2025, the AI chatbot girlfriend thing is everywhere. So the movie didn't miss by much. Android is one of those films that sneaks up on you. Low budget, Roger Corman producing, and a setting on a rundown space station in 2036. Dr. Daniel, played by Klaus Kinski, is working on a new android prototype. Meanwhile, Max the android doesn't even know he's artificial. He's just trying to figure out how humans work. Despite the tight budget, the filmmakers reused sets from Forbidden World to give it a polished look. Critics were split. Some called it clever and witty, gentle but sophisticated ribbing of sci-fi. Others thought it was slow and talky, like a rejected Twilight Zone episode. Still, fans say it's a neat little film that proves what you can do with almost no money. Kinski, who was famously impossible to please, actually liked it, calling it the first movie I've done that children might like. Apparently George Lucas was a fan too. For a movie this small, it made a real impact. If you love 50s sci-fi, Strange Invaders is a perfect throwback. Set in small-town America, it's got the look and the attitude of those old creature features. Paul Le Mat plays a city professor who heads to rural Illinois searching for his missing ex-wife. Soon we find out that her hometown is overrun with aliens who've been there since the late 1950s thanks to a deal with the government. The town itself never changes. 25 years later, it's still stuck in a loop. Sock hops, hayseeds, weird monster cars. It's a tribute and a parody all at once. Bill Condon co-wrote, Michael Laughlin directed, and the vibe is intentionally retro and offbeat. All the sci-fi tech is pure 50s B-movie fantasy. Bug-eyed monsters, crystals, flying saucers. There's even a cameo from June Lockhart and Mark Goddard, original Lost in Space cast members, a direct wink to fans. Financially, Strange Invaders was a bomb. Cost $5.5 million, made only $1.4 million. Reviews were split. Some thought it was an amusing monster movie, while others called it too self-conscious for its own good. Still, if you love old-school monster movies, it's worth tracking down for the clever references and the pure nostalgia. Columbia Pictures actually thought they could outsmart Star Wars. They put out Spacehunter just 1 week before Return of the Jedi, hoping to grab a piece of that hype. For a minute, it worked. Spacehunter opened at number 1, pulled in $7 million. And then Jedi landed, and that was pretty much it for Spacehunter in theaters. But here's why it stands out. Peter Strauss plays a bounty hunter named Wolf, blasting through a post-apocalyptic wasteland in 3D, trying to save 3 women from a mutant tyrant called Overdog. Molly Ringwald pops up as mouthy and clever sidekick. This was actually her first film. They deal with cultists, mutants, android goons, everything the early 80s loved. Michael Ironside disappears under pounds of makeup as Overdog and still manages to be the creepiest guy in the room. It's got dated effects, and sometimes the dialogue is just ridiculous, but there's a kind of energy here that makes it work. And even though Star Wars killed its box office, Spacehunter blew up on home video, top 10 in rental sales for 1983. It's got that rough B-movie excitement, and honestly, it's more fun than half the big-budget sci-fi today. Chris Christopherson plays an investigator digging through the aftermath of a mysterious plane crash. The clues don't add up, but the real story is set in 2057, when Earth is basically uninhabitable. Future survivors travel back in time, snatch doomed airline passengers, and use them to repopulate humanity. And of course, there's the agent from the future working to cover their tracks. Based on John Varley's Air Raid, Millennium commits to the weirdness. The conspiracy unravels as Christopherson digs deeper. Critics at the time said it was bonkers, and they weren't wrong. The script holds together, but the ending stumbles, and some of the supporting cast just don't sell it. But it's one of the only 80s time travel films that actually respects its own source material. The ideas are big, the story demands attention, and if you stay with it, there's real payoff. Nothing else in the 80s looks or feels like the Navigator. Vincent Ward shoots in black and white for the medieval scenes, then switches to color as his plague-ridden villagers dig through the earth and emerge, literally, into 1980s Auckland. The villagers see the modern world as some kind of fairy tale city, and everything from billboards to neon lights just blows their minds. Ward filmed this in brutal New Zealand locations, often in the middle of the night. He obsessed over details, medieval mining, the look of classical paintings. Critics at Cannes loved it. It got a standing ovation, and if you want sci-fi that actually surprises you, this is it. It's not time travel in the classic sense, and if you go in expecting that, you'll be disappointed. But as a dark, moving story about people pushed to the edge by the Black Death, who think our ordinary world is magic, it's unforgettable. The Navigator never made much money, but it's a true one-off. Solarbabies is one of those movies that just shouldn't work, but somehow it turns into pure entertainment. I mean, look at this setup. A bunch of orphan kids in a desert with no water, fighting a fascist captain who runs the last water supply. And then one of them finds a glowing alien ball that might somehow bring back rain and save everybody. This is about as 80s as it gets. Everything here is turned up to 11. Mad Max-style costumes, punk haircuts, a villain named Mister, and chase scenes that make zero sense if you try to break them down, but are so ridiculous you just go with it. Critics obviously hated it. Leonard Maltin called it an appalling stinker with vapid dialogue and no coherent mood. And at the box office, it tanked hard. Barely made over $1 million on a $23 million budget. But here's the thing. Sometimes you just want to watch a disaster that's so fully committed to its own weirdness, it becomes fun. Modern genre fans even call it a cult classic now. Maybe not for the reasons the studio hoped, but definitely for the experience. Spaced Invaders dropped in 1989, and right away people looked at the title and figured it was for kids. It actually had some pretty good special effects for its budget. Those Martian costumes and the miniature ships really stood out. The production got the look right, and the character design and creature work were a step above what you'd expect from a B-movie. The story took a bunch of bumbling Martians who heard Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast and decided it was real. They landed in a small Midwestern town on Halloween. The Martians got it into their heads that this was Earth's capital and set out to invade, only to run up against a regular American holiday parade and a bunch of kids who just wanted candy. Director Patrick Johnson actually got some support behind the scenes. Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy saw the film and liked it enough to convince Jeffrey Katzenberg to have Disney distribute it. It didn't matter in the end. Critics absolutely panned it at release. Roger Ebert said it was a waste of time. Other reviewers said Johnson put together some impressive miniatures, but the film itself was painful and only mild fun. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 8%. Even so, over time, Spaced Invaders picked up a cult following. People who grew up with it on VHS remember it fondly. The effects still work, and even though it got written off as a kids' movie, some modern reviewers call it a beloved cult classic for B-movie fans.